We got here a little project bike. This is a 25 KTM 500 EXC-F. We're doing a top end on it just because he has quite a bit of hours on it. So we're going to be putting a new piston, rings, gaskets, doing the complete top end, but he wants more power out of it. And these bikes have a lot of potential. They're really plugged off from the factory. We're going to be changing the tail section on the pipe with one that's much more open. We're going to be doing an airbox mod to this thing. The customer had already taken the reeds out of the airbox. Right here, there's a reeds in here, but it leaves a really funky shape, this cool intake that you just drop right in the airbox, and it gives the bike a lot more power, a lot more bottom end, a lot smoother airflow. So between this and the ECU mapping, these things can get quite a bit more horsepower. And another thing we're going to do, we are going to take all the smog off. All this is part of the smog we are going to take off. There's a carbon canister in the frame up here, which you can either cap these, like the motor's apart, so there's a lot of room to do it because we got the motor apart. But if you don't want to take the motor apart and you don't have the room, you can just cap these off. There's three of them you have to cap off. There's one on each side right here by the radiator in front, one here, and one on the other side. Or if you want to get rid of it, get it out of the frame, get rid of it altogether, you can unscrew these. There's three of them. And then the charcoal canister, this comes right out the bottom of the chassis. And there you go. You get rid of the carbon canister. Because the way they have it stock, they have the vent hose for the motor going back into the airbox, which puts fumes into the airbox, which goes back into the motor and burns it. But it makes it not run good. So by taking all this stuff out, we're going to get a lot more power, a lot better running, and this thing's going to be like a whole different bike. Now that we've got the charcoal canister and all the smog taken off this, we have already installed the cylinder. We cleaned up and we honed it. We have the new piston and rings and pin and all the stuff installed on the top end. Now before we install the new head gasket, you notice we've cleaned the top of the cylinder really good. Now I really like using copper coat on the head gasket. So I'm going to go spray both sides of this. The instructions say spray both sides. Let it tack up a little bit before you put it on, and then we're going to install the head. So I am going to spray both sides of the head gasket with the copper coat before I put it on. And then we're going to install the head. But the head, we've actually already taken the valves out. We've put in all new valve guide seals in. We've cleaned everything. I actually wire brush and buff the other sides of the valves. I buff the valves, clean them all up, clean the head surface all up, clean the head, get the ports as clean as possible, and put everything back together. And what's cool about the KTMs, you can actually put the cam in, adjust the valves, everything's lubed and ready to go. Spray the head gasket with the copper coat, and put the head gasket on, and put the head on. Okay, we've got the head gasket all copper coated and put on. We've got the head on. We've snugged the bolts. Now we're going to go with our torque wrench, and we got it set on 30 Newton meters first. So we're going to go around and we're going to torque the bolts in sequence, like back and forth. Okay, now we're going to set the torque wrench to 50 Newton meters, and that's the final measurement. 50 Newton meters is what they're supposed to be at when they're all done. And we're going to do the same thing in the same pattern. Okay, the beauty of the KTM is you can lock the crank so you keep it in position it needs to be in while you're setting the timing chain, the valves, and all that other stuff. So on this particular bike, it's not top dead center. It's a little bit off top dead center. So what I do is I take this bolt out, which goes right here, and I've already done it, but I take this out and I take a screwdriver and I stick it in there when I know it's close, and I rotate the crank till this falls in the groove. And once it falls in the groove, then I put this in. It's a long screw that I've made that goes in the groove that's in the crank to hold it in place. Okay, as you put the timing chain on, you got to put the timing chain behind the cam. And then as you go to slide the cam in, you can put the timing chain on. And then you just slide the cam in. Now it's got the two marks. It's got TDC and it's got lock. Since we have the crankshaft locked and it's not on TDC, it's on lock where the groove is in the crank, you're going to put it on lock. You want to push pressure here. You want the lock to be straight up and down, and that's exactly how it's timed. We got the timing chain lined up on the lock mark. After you get the cam all set, pushed back in, everything lined up, there's this little bracket right here that holds the cam in place. Put that in, put the 2 bolts in, torque 15 Newton meters on each one. And please don't forget to subscribe. Now when you took this out of the bike, you took this bolt out of the back that has the spring, the adjuster. Now we're gonna put this back in place so we can put it back in. There's a little lock right here. You got to push it down, and then you push the plunger in. Now we're going to put this in with the new gasket. Put this in where it goes. Okay, after you get the tensioner back in, put the bolts in. You tighten these to 10 Newton meters, torque them. Then we're going to put this bolt, this spring, and we're going to push this in here. And what it's going to do is it's going to push the tensioner to the proper tension on the timing chain. Okay, we're going to push this in here. The spring is going to push the plunger for the proper torque on the timing chain. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get started, but after you get this started, now we're going to look at the spec and torque this down. But you can see now the timing chain is nice and tight. It's on the lock mark, straight up and down, so we are good. We are wrapping up our 25 KTM 500 EXC-F project. There's a lot you can do to these bikes because they are very slow, stock, sluggish. They're very plugged off to get through California emissions and all that kind of stuff. So first thing, well, we serviced all the suspension. We've already done it before, but we've serviced it all. We put a new piston rings, completely new top end, took all the valves out, cleaned them, polished them, new valve guide seals, so the top end's all done. But some of the unique things we did to this bike to make it have a lot more power is we went to our buddy Dave over at Pennant Racing, and we had this remapped. This makes a huge difference, but when you do this, you have to also change. We put an Akrapovic tail section on this bike to let it breathe. Pennant Racing also makes this cool intake system, which really improves the flow going into the throttle body, because when you take the stock reeds out of this thing, it's not a very good flow in there. So they make this cool piece that just sits in there, and it really improves the flow. More bottom end, more top end. I've actually seen the dyno charts. Goes along with his mapping. And also what goes along with this mapping, what's really cool, is you can run the map switch off of like the 450 SXF. You just buy it from KTM. It plugs right into the stock loom, and you now have your both aggressive and non-aggressive maps. The quick shift and the traction control will work, even though this bike doesn't come with its stock. It will work with this mapping that's in the ECU. 25 KTM 500 EXC-F project is done. Let's fire it up. Sounds good. We got our map switch in here. Let's see how it actually works. Switch the maps. We got traction control and quick shift. Everything is functional with our new ECU mapping. A lot more performance out of this bike from how it was stock.